The first step to creating this quilt is to cut up your fabrics. I took all of the fat quarters and cut them into 5 6.5-inch squares. I also grabbed some coordinating solid fat quarters. So I picked out 10 solid fat quarters and I cut them into 4 6.5-inch squares. So here is our 9-patch block, and you can see it's a mega block. It's huge. I'm going to take these fabrics and flip them over all the way down one side. We're going to take it to the machine and stitch these pieces together with a 1/4-inch seam allowance. I'm here at the machine and I'm making sure that these fabrics are in nice alignment. Then I'll lift my foot slightly and begin stitching. I'm just chain piecing these together. It goes really, really quickly. I've pieced my squares together into rows, and now I'm pressing those seam allowances open. I finger press and then press with hot, dry iron so they're nice and flat. And now I'm going to flip this over and then flip over so right sides together, and we're going to stitch these 2 rows together next. Here at the machine, I'm taking a look at those seams and making sure they're stacked right on top of each other and that the top edges are in nice alignment too. I'm going to place a pin right before the seam so the fabrics don't slip as I stitch. I'm going to do the same thing for this one too. It's always good to pin if you really want things to match nicely. So I'm coming up on another seam. I want to make sure those seam allowances aren't flipping over. So I kind of pull it back like this just to double check. And then flatten it back out again. I'm going to stitch right up to that pin. Nice and slow. Now I'll take the pin out, and then I'll start taking a look at this lower edge, making sure that's all aligned really well too. So it's kind of, as you're stitching on down, you're constantly tweaking one part of the block or another. You know, you can buzz through it, but at the same time, you want to take your time making sure that everything's in good alignment, and that way your block's going to finish out looking great. So I've taken some time to press my seam allowances open, and here is our giant 9-patch block. This should finish out at 18.5 inches, but now we're going to make it disappear. And what's the magic word?
Hocus pocus. Abracadabra? Did I say that right? Expecto Patronum!
So I'm lining up a really long ruler here, and these blocks should measure 6 inches through the middle. And so if I line up my 3-inch mark on the ruler with this seam line, then I should cut this block in half. Now this can be a little tricky. It's a very long ruler over a very big block, and it's very easy for your ruler to slip. So just take this slow and easy. I'm going to get to the middle, and then I'm going to reposition my hand and also make sure that the ruler hasn't slipped out of position. It might even help if you flip up what you've already cut so you know where to start, and then cut the rest of that line. Slow and steady. Okay, now I'm going to cut this part in half too. So here again, I'm lining up my 3-inch mark with that seam line. I'm also lining up a thin line on my ruler to make sure it's straight across too. Press firmly and cut across. Now it's time to arrange our quilt, and there's so many ways that you can arrange these blocks together. Here I've set them up so it's almost like going back to the 9-patch, except you get 4 different fabrics here in the center and this cool combination of solid colors on the sides. You can also rotate 2 blocks and put those small squares in 2 corners, and you get this effect. I think this is pretty neat because you don't end up having to match seams except through the middle. That'll save you a lot of time. You could also rotate again and have all of your prints in one big block in the middle. I like that too. So play around with this, have some fun, and figure out how you want to lay out your Disappearing 9-patch quilt. So here's our finished quilt. If you'd like to find the quilt pattern, you can check it out at leahday.com/disappearing9patch. Until next time, let's go quilt.